Heather McDonald has got the juiciest scoop. When you're on the road, when you're on the go, Juicy Scoop is the show to know. She talks Hollywood tales, her real life Mr. Segment serial data and serial sister. You'll be addicted and addicted fast to the #1 tabloid real life podcast. Listen in, listen up. Whoop whoop. Heather McDonald, Juicy Scoop.
Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. You guys, I'm honestly shaking. There is so much Juicy Scoop, so many updates, so many things to talk about today. I'm going to go through them, and then I have a earth-shattering interview with a woman who was a sister wife to the Snowdens, Dimitri Snowden and Ashley Snowden from Seeking Sister Wives, right before they started filming the show on TLC 3 seasons ago. And she did not sign an NDA, and she is speaking exclusively to me, and it's interesting, shocking, and I'm excited for it. So let's go. So, biggest divorce ever. The Gates, they're getting divorced, and they're together worth $130 billion. And I thought this was kind of interesting that Bill Gates actually hired Warren Buffett's 97-year-old lawyer, because I guess Warren Buffett went through a divorce, but this guy's 97 and he knows how to divorce rich men. We know now that it is she who filed. She said that it is beyond, I forgot the word she used, but it is broken beyond repair, basically. And a lot of people on social media were like, what, 27 years? I mean, God, you've been together so long. You know what? That's why they got divorced, because they've been together so long. It's the classic. The youngest one is 18. She's had it. Okay. A lot of people thought they were like a really great match because they also built this huge foundation that they worked together and donating millions and billions of dollars a year. But it's also a way, it's sort of interesting. We were talking a little bit about this more. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more on Patreon because I don't want to say wrong tax news information, but these super rich people make these foundations and it seems like they're being really generous. But if they didn't have this, wouldn't the government be getting it? And then wouldn't that money be going through the regular taxes? And wouldn't that be going to your schools and roads and the way the government needs to spend the money, even if that's stimulus checks or, military? I don't know. It's just a very interesting way the 1%, beyond 1% lives. Anyway, she said, I've had it. Okay. I don't really care. And I just think you get to a certain point, you're like, we're so rich. Can I just have someone rub my back? Can I just have someone be nice? Like, I'm just not into it anymore. And that could have been him too. Well, then I went a little deeper. And this is the weirdest part coming out of the Daily Mail, that for the first 10 years of their marriage, okay, once they got married in 1994, that his girlfriend and Bill Gates and his girlfriend, before he met and married his wife, Melinda, they would meet one weekend every year for a long weekend at the beach every year with this venture capitalist ex-girlfriend of his. And they had dated prior to him meeting his wife. Her name's Anne Winblad. She's 70, so she's 5 years older than Bill Gates, and Melinda is 56. And he asked for her approval, and she agreed to this. So we know for at least the first decade of their marriage, he would go and have these weekends. And it just reminds me of one of my favorite movies and plays. I actually studied it in a scene study class, Same Time Next Year, which is kind of a wonderful idea if it can happen, where this couple accidentally met she was going to a religious retreat and it was like canceled or something. She stayed at a hotel and this guy was there for work. And they were both married. They both had kids. They went out to dinner. They slept together. And then they just said, same time next year. And this was like in the 60s and 70s. So they didn't email each other. They didn't call each other, but they'd meet there every single year. And it's a great movie. It's with Alan Alda. Anyway. And it's like, wow. I mean, weird, but kind of amazing, but strange that she knew it. In the play, the other spouses never knew that their spouses were going away and having a rendezvous weekend once a year, but very strange. So I'm sure that added to the resentment. And then finally going, you know what, I'm 56. I'm rich as hell. I can get an entire new body, not that she has to, an entirely new face. Any guy is going to want to be with me, love me. I can do what I want with this charity. My kids are older. God. And then she can go join her best friend, Mackenzie Bezos. No, I don't know if they're best friends. But do you imagine if we could get them on some like billionaire housewife show? Now that could be fun. All right, moving on. This is also very interesting. This was in People magazine, and this woman is going to run 285 miles in a wedding dress to raise awareness for narcissistic domestic behavior. This article just came out in People, and I read about it. This is what it didn't mention. The man that this woman was engaged to, who she claims, the article says all the awful things he did. The love bombing, the chain, blaming her for things, being verbally abusive, locking her out of the house. There's all these strange things that all goes with this different form of domestic abuse, which is based around if you're with a narcissist, which is a huge word we're hearing a lot of. I don't know if it's being overused or what, but it's really interesting. And there's definitely a correlation to the way people behave in romantic relationships when they are, in fact, diagnosed a narcissist. Well, guys, this is who she was engaged to. Louis, as in Real Housewives of New Jersey's Louis. A juicy scooper happened to be invited to this wedding, I guess, and sent this to me anonymously. This was save the date for Louis and Vanessa. Vanessa's the one I just said is going to do this thing for narcissistic domestic abuse based on her experience. They were set to get married, everyone, July 11th, 2020. Now, obviously, that would have been probably canceled or postponed a couple of months prior due to the pandemic. But we know now he met Theresa and started dating her just a couple months after this date, or a month after this date. So this was where the wedding was going to be, in this incredible castle. They had like magnets sent to all their guests, like get so excited. This is the magnet of this castle. It's called the Oka Castle Hotel and Estate. Anyway, hey, just very interesting. Just putting out some juice that nobody else knows. People magazine didn't even mention it, didn't put it together. Maybe they didn't want to. Maybe they're not as juicy as me. Okay. Well, this is something obviously we are not surprised about. Very sad. Good news, but sad. They have never found this woman, though there's been remains. This woman went missing a year ago, Mother's Day weekend. You may remember the story. She was told that she was supposedly went on a bike ride and then was never found. I think the bike was found. Here's all the details. So Barry Morphe, he was arrested. That's her husband. They're both very cute. They had married a long time, 2 girls. She was like 48. Was arrested on first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and attempting to influence a public servant. So Suzanne, 49, disappeared on May 10th last year after reportedly setting off for a bike ride. Well, we know now she never went on a bike ride. With a home that she shared with Barry in Salida, Chaffee County. Her husband has maintained his innocence, issuing a bizarre video pleading that "I want you back so bad" just days after appearance, like a crying video. Then he sold off the house they shared together for $1.6 million back in March. Then in February, he sold off a plot of land he bought just weeks after Suzanne had disappeared. However, cadaver dogs picked up a scent of human remains there in September. But I guess it took even more time to get all their evidence together, because not until just now did he get arrested. It later emerged that Barry left a hotel in Broomfield, Colorado, reeking of chlorine, and covered in wet clothes the day of his wife's disappearance. So I think the thought is, He actually killed her. He did a cleanup, and then we buried the body somewhere, probably on that other property he where the cadaver dogs were, and then said, oh, she went for a bike ride. So hopefully we'll get the real answer and he'll confess. Real Housewives of Dallas reunion was on last night, and one of the cast members, Kary, did announce that she is getting divorced from her husband. So Kary and Eduardo are getting divorced. This is, I believe, her second husband. I think they have one child together, and the 3 others that she has are from her first marriage. And then she's, that's why she was drinking so much and stuff. But the reunion was pretty good. And also on that, I've talked about how one of the girls, Brandy, a video emerged of her husband kind of dancing in Vegas, sort of getting close to this woman. And it came out in 2018. We know now that I think Brandy saw it in 2018, but then it emerged and was released through some blogs and through Instagram, popular Bravo fans just a few months ago, which was really hard on Brandy. But on last night's episode, the preview for next week, she said what really hurt is someone sent that video to her 12-year-old daughter in a DM on Instagram. And so everyone's wondering who did it. And then she mentions in the preview, Leanne. We think Leanne did it. Now, Leanne Locken is no longer on this season, and I don't think she's too pleased about it. But we don't know who released this video. However, Bravo and Cocktails, who is a very popular Instagram account, they just happen to have gotten the text exchange that happened apparently probably last night between Brandy and Leanne Locken. Leanne writes, thank you. I guess it must have been DNS. We don't know if that means Deandra and Stephanie or Deandra Simmons. I don't know. Then Brandy says, I said a fan. Sent her that video. People are reaching. And then Leanne says, I would never want your children to hurt. That makes me want to cry. Then she said, thank you, Brian really messed up, and it really kills me that they saw it. It's been a horrible year for all of us, Brandy says. And then Leanne says, I can't imagine having to deal with that, blah, blah, blah. So she puts it out there, Leanne, to prove I didn't do this. I had this conversation with Brandy. But I'm like, okay, well, now you're sharing private texts, so I don't really know if that makes you very credible. Okay, another thing I predicted, you guys, that horrible Josh Duggar from, the big weird reality show that was on forever, 19 and Counting, and this family. Josh Duggar was arrested at his place of work, which is like a car dealership or something, and they first arrested him and they didn't say why. The police would not reveal why. So I just knew it was possession. It came to me. I'm like, I know it's possession of child porn. I just know it is. Just from the way they described the arrest, what it was, I just know enough about how they do this when someone is in possession of child porn or distributing it or sharing it with their other pedophile friends. So I have to get my predictions out there because I just have a gift. And I put it out there on Instagram, and sure enough, the next day, it was proven, yes, possession of child porn. He's right now being held without bail. But weirdly, his sister just came out with a book. It's literally being I think it's this week or something might be the first day it came out. I don't know. This just came up. Ginger is her name, and she talks about when in 2015 it all came out about how her brother Josh molested her and 3 of her sisters. And she's like, it was really hard because we all dealt with it back when it happened back then. And then when it came out in 2015, it was another thing we had to deal with, which I feel bad for any of the victims. But I mean, this is just so horrific. Then also, you guys may not remember that this, she's a porn star. She was a stripper. Her name's Danica Dillon. She accused Josh Duggar in 2015 of a brutal rape, said that he was at the strip club, that they made a plan to go out together. And the minute she got into his hotel room, he choked her. She thought she couldn't breathe. He, forced himself on her. It was the worst experience of her life. She absolutely, was raped. Nothing happened with that. He was on Ashley Madison sites. I think he's a full-blown child molester and a sex addict that is just insatiable, it sounds like to me. So, we're going to find out, hopefully, what, in fact, he was in possession of and see what happens. But, I mean, thank God this show is off the air. Just Britney Spears. People have wondered, is Britney in charge of her Instagram account or not? I told you, I have been having contact with Billy B Makeup, who was her makeup artist on the It Factor. They've remained friends all this time. I talked to him on the phone. He has shared on his Instagram that he's absolutely in contact with her. Other people have accused him of lying. So then this thing comes out, which was just, and a lot of people said, we do not think this is Britney. It's this long post with a bunch of emojis, which you kind of believe maybe she'd be like an emoji girl. But she's like, geez, 2021 is definitely way better than 2020, but I never knew I was going to be like this, a bunch of faces. So many documentaries about me this year and people on takes on my like. What can I say? I'm deeply flattered. These documentaries are so hypocritical. They criticize the media and then they do the same thing. And then like a face that's like wondering, damn, I don't know, but I'm thrilled to remind you that although I've had some pretty tough times in my life, I've had way more amazing times in my life. And unfortunately, my friends, I think, would be interested in the negative. So this is supposed to be a business and a society in the future. Why highlight the most negative and traumatizing times in my life forever ago? I mean, damn. On a lighter note, this is a video of me dancing. So then it's her twirling around after, that went along with this post. I have so many trips to look forward to this summer, and I cannot wait to dance in different studios with a bunch of little dancing ladies. I'm hoping to get a miniature koi pond in my backyard as well with little fishes. I know I'm weird, but hey, it's the little things, I'm grateful about my beautiful backyard, and I'm no Martha Stewart, but that's for sure. But I'll tell you, I have the finest garden, a bunch of flowers, and I hope you're living your best life. And then she goes, and I know I am. PSSS, I don't actually talk to Billy B at all. I'm honestly so confused. Well, Billy's Instagram is Billy B Makeup. Sometimes you just got to throw in like a middle initial or whatever because someone took it. Nobody calls him Billy B. She's never called him Billy B. None of his friends call him Billy B. He's like, this is bullshit. He's called out the social media team that he is convinced is the one that's doing all this. Then he posts, today is Lynn Spears' birthday. No one loves their mother more than Britney Spears. However, Britney hasn't posted about it. Why? Because she's not in charge of her Instagram. Then another weird thing happened last night. Jamie Lynn Spears, remember Zoe 101 and Britney's younger sister, is selling Roden and Fields, which is a multi-level marketing skincare company that a lot of people really love. Very interesting that Lynn Spears, Britney Spears' mother, is a rep. And she said, if you want to make my mom's birthday, buy some of these products from her. And your daughter's Britney Spears. And your ex-husband is in charge of the conservatorship. Very weird, you guys. Also going down, strange stuff that's happened. Tristan Thompson, Khloe Kardashian's baby daddy, has sent a letter, a cease and desist letter for the pretty Instagram girl who said that she was talking to him and had sex with him, and they've had a bunch of communication. She shared it on a podcast. He said, stop talking about it. You're a liar. She got a real mean letter about it. And then the podcast took that portion down, and everyone's shaking in their boots. And but he's saying it's just not true. And I don't know. Maybe she doesn't have the evidence to say it. The attorneys for him are saying she's just doing it for clout. She's shopping a reality show. Her numbers went way up. Well, yeah, I can see it. It's pretty juicy. She's not accusing him of anything badly. She's just saying, hey, this happened. So my prediction is we'll never hear about this again. I think she's going to keep quiet. Maybe she'll get some flat tummy tea out of it in the end. Another thing I was right about again. Oh my God, you guys. Sometimes I'm just like, Heather, what is up? It's just like crazy. I remember exactly where I was when I knew this chick was lying. The Petaluma mom blogging, social influencing, lying, horrible person has been arrested and is facing 2 charges. This was the story. I remember exactly where I was. Someone sent it to me like, oh my God, this is terrible. You've got to see it. And I'm watching this Instagram, which I thought was an Instagram live. I found out later it was recorded days after the incident in her car, but it made it sound like it was done like it just happened. Where in a nutshell, she says, I'm shopping with my 2 children at Michael's in Petaluma, which is a very nice area in Northern California. And basically, these 2 people followed me around the store. They were unsavory types. I was scared to the point where they actually tried to grab my child's stroller, but this elderly man and this caregiver saw it, and that scared the people away. She tells the story. The police question her. They find the people that were in the store with her on the surveillance camera. They put it out on the news. The people are sitting at home. They're a respectable married couple forever. They're parents and grandparents. A lot of people in the community know them. And one of their kids is like, Papa, isn't that you or whatever? They're like, what? They call the police. They go down. They're like, where were the people at Michael's? We're so confused what's going on. So they go deeper and they realize they never grabbed her stroller. Obviously, they're not kidnappers. They had never had any ill intent. They don't even, they did nothing wrong. And so she's in a lot of trouble. Her name, people know her now. Her name is Kary Swarenson. And both the counts, if she's convicted of both, which is like false police reports and everything, will be 6 months in jail for each. So she could do some time. I don't think she'll do a full year, but I think she might do a little, to be honest. Now, a lot of people thought right away this is a Karen situation. This is a QAnon situation where people believe that their children are being kidnapped right and left and being sex trafficked. The minute I saw it, I thought, this girl wants more followers. She's seen these things go viral and she knows it, and she saw something that in her head made her a tiny bit nervous, and then she let her head go crazy with it. And then she also, while letting her head go crazy with it, thought, I'm really not actually that scared, but I'm going to talk about it because I think this could get me some interest. And then she backed off when she saw that it went bigger than she actually wanted. She gained 80,000 more followers. And they also said, so the couple is Eddie Martinez and his wife. And, they're upset, obviously, still, but happy to see her be arrested. But they wanted it to be part of a racially. There's a new act. It's called the Karen Act, but with a C. It's Caution Against Racial and Exploitative Non-Emergencies Act, which was introduced in San Francisco in July of 2020, named after being Karen, but they made it a C because it's all the letters together. Caution Against Racial and Exploitative Non-Emergency Act. The Karen Act. So basically that's what this is falling under. Another thing I was right about, Lady Gaga. Well, there's been more on the Lady Gaga dog napping. So yes, 5 people have been arrested. 3 are the men so we know now, originally we were told that it was a gang initiation. I don't know that's initiation, but these guys, the 3 guys, do have gang ties. They did not know that these were Lady Gaga's dogs. We know that now. They were driving around West LA, Hollywood, and the San Fernando Valley specifically looking for French bulldogs, which is kind of crazy. So they see the poor dog walker on Sunset Boulevard, which is a very busy street. He stops at a store, he gets something with the 3 dogs, and then he starts walking up, off one of those streets off Sunset to where I guess the house is. And so once he was off by himself a little bit, then they pulled up. One dog got away. They hit him. And then the other guy shot him. He is still not doing great. He's been in and out of the hospital. He had a collapsed lung, was the latest thing that brought him back into the hospital. So they get their dogs. Then they realize, oh my God, it's Lady Gaga's dogs. Shit. But what are we going to do? So according to the prosecution, this is what they think happened. Obviously, all these people are saying not guilty. One guy calls his dad, and the dad's like, oh, you idiot, whatever. But he's like got criminal charges too of a past. He and his girlfriend, then they say, okay, the girlfriend will go say, I found the dogs tied to a pole. Then we'll get the 500,000 and the dogs get returned and they never know it's us. And obviously, so the police, once they meet the woman, they get the 2 dogs back. They said to Lady Gaga, do not pay the 500,000 because we are investigating it. We do not want you to give her the money until we know for sure that she had nothing to do with it. Well, they probably shook her down at the point where she like cracked and told the whole story is what I'm thinking happened. And really hope that this guy gets better. But that's the deal. Really scary if you have a French bulldog at home or even one that's just like, a purebred or very attractive. And the thing is that it's just counted as stolen property if you steal a dog. It's not kidnapping. It's not anything more than that. Of course, this is attempted murder and a weapon. But if someone was to successfully just steal the dog without hurting anyone, it's just a robbery. And it doesn't really, it's not really actually, unfortunately, that big of a deal in LA. Okay, let's see what else I want to get to. Oh, so now let's talk about Seeking Sister Wives. Oh my God, you guys. This show on TLC in its 3rd season, I've been talking a lot about it. I just want to get right to the juicy interview. So Dimitri, the Snowdens, Ashley and Dimitri Snowden, they actually were never married. They have 3 kids together. And throughout their 10 years together, prior to the show, they have sought out having sister wives. They've had sister wives move in and move out. Then they started doing the show. The first season, we saw them date a couple women. One he slept with named Jocelyn, which Ashley wasn't happy that they were sleeping together before like a real commitment had been made. Then 2nd season, they met Vanessa Cobbs. They all came on my show, which I'm going to share that episode. It's old. It's about a year ago. I'm going to share it on Patreon. You go to heathermcdonald.net. You click on Patreon. That's going to be available this weekend along with my Friday Patreon, which comes every Friday when you're a part of that. So you can listen back to it after you listen to this. And in this season, they're pursuing 2 women. One, Crystalline, who comes right this past episode, comes from South America. She's beautiful with her 2 little daughters. And so this is what we're seeing on TV is from about a year ago. And she, about a week ago, went to the police to get a temporary restraining order saying that she has been physically abused by him, and even Ashley kept her from leaving one of the times. And so she wanted a temporary restraining order. The judge dismissed it against both Ashley and Dimitri, saying she didn't believe the girl, I guess. There wasn't enough evidence. And so that was it. Well, I was approached by a former sister wife of theirs who was with them for quite a while before the show was on the air, before they were part of the show. And she is going to tell her story, and it is absolutely explosive and intriguing. So here we go with that. Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I'm talking to Ariadne Joseph. I'm very excited to speak to you because the Juicy Scoopers and I have been obsessed with a show called Seeking Sister Wives and all the drama that's happening in real life with that show, which is on TLC. And you were at one time, before the show was filming, you were part of the Snowden family as a sister wife, correct?
Yes.
So, wow. Okay. Let's just start from the beginning. First of all, you're absolutely gorgeous. So
Thank you.
It seems like all the sister wives are gorgeous. So they pick gorgeous people. But what was your background in growing up and that you ended up kind of deciding to enter this lifestyle?
Well, growing up, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I come from a conservative Christian background. My father is a police officer, military, ordained minister. My mother was a hairstylist and owned a hair salon. I had a pretty traditional church upbringing. I got married early, started a family early. I did college, some college, and then decided to become an actor. So
Okay.
I was actually and still am an actor. I'm not now a business owner, entrepreneur, but my upbringing was pretty normal, pretty traditional. Coming into polygyny was not something that I saw growing up. My parents were monogamous, and they're still together to this day. So, but I have always been very different, kind of the oddball in the family, always trying new things. I became a spiritualist, left religion, stopped eating meat, became a vegan. I started doing yoga and all of these different things. So I
So
was
how old
always
were
very
you?
different.
How old were you when you married your first husband?
I was 21.
Oh, that is very young. And what
Mhm.
was he like? What did he do?
He was in the military, much like my father. He was
Okay.
Navy, father's Army.
And so how many children did you guys have together?
We have two daughters together.
And so what age did you guys start living separately? You and your
Um,
husband?
my
Like how
first
old were
husband,
you?
when we split, when
Yeah,
we
when you split.
divorced,
Yeah.
um, I want to say it was 30, 31, 32, I believe, when we split.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when we divorced.
So then you're a single mom living your life,
Hmm.
as the aspiring actress doing your thing. How did you even think of this lifestyle and how did you meet the Snowdens?
So after my divorce, a year and a half later, I connected with my youngest daughter's father. She's 8, and um, he had actually introduced it to me, believe it or not, but I was totally against the idea. He and I split, and I started to do more research on it, and I joined a polygynous group on Facebook just to learn more about it. And I was approached or inboxed by Dimitri, and
Okay, wait. I'm a little bit confused. Okay, so your husband that was in the military,
mhm,
you had a couple kids with, but you had another child
mhm,
with someone else. So
yes.
you reconnected with him, and he was a polygamist at that point, or I'm
No, 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 no,
confused.
no, no. So after my first marriage,
Yeah.
we got divorced, and then I connected with a different person,
Oh,
my
okay.
youngest daughter's father. We
Got it.
never married, though. We were engaged
Oh,
and
I see. Your
yeah.
youngest daughter. Okay, I was thinking. Okay,
Hmm.
I was confused. Okay,
Yeah.
so you were with that person. You had your daughter,
Hmm.
and then when that relationship ended,
Hmm.
is
Yes.
when you
I
started.
started talking to the Snowdens, but he actually, Dimitri inboxed me when I was pregnant with my daughter, believe it or
Mhm.
not. But I told him, I'm in a relationship, I'm pregnant, that kind of thing. And he backed away. Now I stayed in the group, and I would every now and then pop my head in, and I'd see him interacting in the group, interacting with other people, that kind of thing. And then when my youngest daughter's dad, when we split, then he saw, I guess he saw that I was single, and he started to pop back into my inbox. And he and I connected or talked, but I told him that I wasn't comfortable with polygyny or with even talking to him unless I spoke to his wife. So he got me connected with Ashley, and that's how she and I connected. So initially, she and I became friends, and we decided further into maybe a couple months after that we would meet, she and I. So she actually flew to New Orleans, and she stayed at my place for 3 days. So while there, we went out, took the kids out, spent time together. But I started to notice some things about her. Her attitude, she was very controlling, and bossy and nitpicky. She was very nitpicky
Mhm.
about some really weird things. And so toward the end of the third day, we just decided it wasn't going to work out. And, we ended on somewhat good terms. I didn't have any animosity, and neither did she. We just realized it's not a good fit. Um, and then maybe 3 years later, I was actually in Ghana, West Africa, and she inboxed me on Facebook, and she told me she had a dream about me. And she told me that she saw me on the beach. Mind you, that day I was on the beach, so it kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
So she and I started talking, and we reconnected. So we became friends. She told me that she was acting, or that she wanted to get into acting. So she asked me a bunch of questions about acting. And I literally still have those text messages where we kind of bonded over that. And all of a sudden, Dimitri started reaching out to me again. And he's like, "You ready to come home?" That's kind of his thing. So he and I would talk, she and I would talk, and then we kind of decided, okay, we're going to start courting. Now, at this time, I had already made up my mind that I wanted to try polygyny. I tried monogamy, and I wanted to see what this lifestyle was about. Also, I'm very family oriented, and I believe and had the understanding that sisterhood, polygyny was all about sisterhood. You have women who are helping each other raise their children. They're supporting each other in what they do, and they just happen to be sharing a husband. So,
I just want to say a couple things. So I interviewed them. I don't know if you were aware. I interviewed Vanessa Cobbs and Dimitri and Ashley. And when I interviewed them, they, that was sort of interesting to me that she had kind of studied. Now you say polygamy and I say polygamy. Is there a difference between the two?
Yes.
Or am I saying it wrong? So what
Yes.
is the difference between polygamy and
Polygyny.
Okay, what's the difference?
So polygamy it's like an umbrella, and
Okay.
other things come underneath polygamy. Polygamy just means more than one.
Okay.
So polygyny is the practice of a man having more than one wife, so having two or more. Polyamory is the practice of both the man and woman having other partners within
Right.
their union. And then you have, polygyny, polyamory, and during it was another one. Why can't I think
Well,
of it?
polyamorous just means that you yourself would have numerous relationships,
Right.
but they're aware of each other,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think polyamory, so you have polyamorous and polyamory. One of the two are when a woman has more than one husband.
Okay.
So you have polygamy is the umbrella, and then polygyny and all the other polys come underneath. And the one that we practiced was polygyny, with him being the single man having more than one woman.
And when they were sitting just all so happy next to me, first of all, I'm fascinated by it. I'm just fascinated by other people's lifestyles. I find it just really interesting. And so I'm kind of having fun and talking to them about it. And, I did think that was interesting that it wasn't a religious thing that, we mostly think of it as like Mormons. And even though it's been in other religions, we just think of that in America as it being kind of a Mormon thing. And that, through different tribes and everything, that this was something that happened and it was a sisterhood. It was beautiful. And then Dimitri's like, I just wanted to live in a matriarchal family, and the woman is queen, but there could be several queens. And he was saying all the right things. I'm like,
Right.
I get, he acted like it was like the ultimate form of feminism kind of, So I thought that was really interesting. So when you first entered the group, which I'm assuming was like a Facebook group type of thing,
Mm-hmm.
is it because you just kind of fell upon it and were sort of just intrigued? Or how was your initial interest? Okay.
I wanted to learn more about the practice, but I wanted to talk to people who were practicing it, and I wanted to have dialogue around it and kind of observe. And I did, and I saw there were many people in the group. There were people that were religious centered, their polygyny practice, and then there were people who were just spiritualists and decided this is what they wanted to do. There were many of the unions kind of matriarchal, and then many were patriarchal. I just found that what was happening was people were practicing this lifestyle according to what they wanted and not according to a certain doctrine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so I noticed also that the ones that practiced it according to the doctrine had more success than the ones that were just making it up along the way, which was pretty much what Dimitri and Ashley were doing. So it didn't last it because the rules kept changing. The demands, the standards, and all of these different things just kept changing according to what they wanted. So,
okay. So he starts to talk to you again, you reconnect, you start talking to them. At this time, you're living where with your kids?
At the time I'm talking to them, I'm living in Louisiana. I'm in my own place at the time.
And at that time, are they in Atlanta?
No, they were in PA. They were living on the East Coast.
Oh, okay. So you start talking again, and at this point, you still have had no physical contact with Dimitri. You've only been like
No
chatting.
physical. Yep, just chatting. I actually had physical contact with Ashley first. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so then you decide to come out again and visit them, I assume?
I decided to start the courtship process again, and we talked. A couple months later, we decided, okay, I'm going to come out, and so I fly out to Atlanta. And at the time,
now they're in Atlanta?
yes, they were.
Okay, so then go ahead.
And at this time, they were living in this little apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, and I didn't expect to get what I got when I got there. So when I came, he had a ring waiting for me. He proposed. And I was nervous out of my freaking mind because I didn't plan to marry right away. You know, I still thought that we had other things to talk about. So I was hesitant, but I said yes. And the ring matched Ashley's. So we both had the same matching rings. And then a week later, I went home to pack my things. And the next week, Dimitri comes to help me pack my things. So I move out there to Atlanta with them in the apartment. And then
and do you bring your children too?
No, my 2 older girls were with their father.
Okay.
Yeah, they were spending time with him, and I just had my baby girl, my daughter, my youngest daughter. She came with me.
Okay. And at that time they only had 2 kids, right?
They had Nanu and Neo.
Okay.
And
and I have another question. So once he gives you the ring, the first visit, you get married. Were you able to be intimate, or did she insist on the 27-day alkaline cleanse your body diet before you get to sleep with Dimitri?
That was all on the show, to be honest, because I did not do a cleanse. We did become intimate after the engagement, you know, after saying yes. So I didn't have to go through the detox or anything like that.
Okay, so you come back, you move out there with your daughter. Now you're in Atlanta. They have the 2 kids. You have your daughter. And then what happens?
Things were great for the first few months, like maybe 2 months. And then like we had a lot in common, Ashley and I. I loved her. I adored her. She was such a sweetheart to me. Dimitri seemed like a dream, you know, very, very protective, very intelligent. Yeah, we all had a lot in common. Of course, you know, my lifestyle was very similar to theirs because I was plant-based as well. So I didn't have to do the whole alkaline thing because I was already there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, we had like similar understandings about family. So I was a homeschooler and still am. And Ashley, you know, talked a lot about homeschooling the children as they got older. You know, we were advocates for breastfeeding and all these different things. So we had a lot of interest. And things just seemed really perfect for me in the beginning. Like within 2 months, I started to see the dynamic between Ashley and Dimitri, and I was very worried about it because he would talk to her very roughly at times. I found myself advocating for her in the house. I found myself having to step in during heated conversations, or me demanding that she and I go like get her out of the house because she was with the children all the time. She cooked, you know, 3 meals a day, snacks in between. She's with the kids all the time. He's in the office all day, and he comes out to eat lunch or he comes out to eat dinner and he's back in. So I pushed and pushed for us to go to a spa called Jeju in Atlanta. And we were there for 2 days, which was great. But when we got there, he and her argued on the phone. So I got out of the car, I went into the spa, and she came in. She was a little ruffled, but she ended up enjoying herself and we had a good time. We get back to the house and, you know, things were okay. But their relationship, I saw, started to progressively get like contention. There was more contention between them two. And then he and I got into an argument about a situation with the children. And then, you know, I started to see that she started to change on me very slowly. It was the jealousy that I started to see. It was the controlling aspect of the sex. Like she wanted to control that aspect of how often. She wanted to control the aspect of the children. He started having issues with the children. And we actually moved out of that apartment too. So we moved out of that apartment.
So how old were all the kids at this time, including your own?
My daughter was 4. Nanu was about 4. as well, because they're about the same age. And Neo, I believe Neo was either 1.5 or 2 years old at the time. He was still nursing, so he was still young.
So you're in this apartment and there's 2 bedrooms. So I assume you have one.
No,
And where do you sleep?
he demanded that I sleep with them. That was his vision. And he would tell me this is what he desired. He desired to have his wives share the same space with
So
him.
all 3 of you are in the bed.
Yes.
So when you all go to bed, how are you having sex? The one person just has to turn to their side and put in some AirPods, or what?
No AirPods were there.
Uh-huh.
Oddly enough, Ashley, the first time he and I engaged, she was there in the bed watching. She wanted to be there.
She's sitting up watching or laying down watching or watching from a
Laying
chair?
down watching, laying down watching. And it was very uncomfortable, the initial time, very uncomfortable. But I started to get used to it because she was there most of the time. And when we moved out of the apartment, I demanded that we have a space to do that.
Wait,
Because
I have more questions about this.
Okay.
So then now was there sex happening every night, either he'd have it with you or her, or would he sometimes have it with both of you in the night? Or was it actually not that often? Like what would be like
initially it was often with he and I.
Yeah.
And then when she started to have complaints about sex, then
Because she wasn't getting it as much.
I guess not, but she didn't really want it because some of their arguments were centered around her not wanting sex
Okay.
and him yelling and screaming because he wanted sex from her.
Mm.
So, when she started to make complaints, the intimacy between he and I kind of started to fizzle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved into the bigger house,
Mm-hmm.
we actually created one of the big walk-in closets as the sex room.
Okay.
Because at this point, I wasn't a big fan of her being upset when she would get up in the middle of the night to go nurse Neo. He and I would engage, and then she'd come in, we're engaged, and she'd be upset,
Yeah,
And,
because you were like, finally, let me have sex without another set of eyes staring. Yeah.
Right. But it was like he insisted to. Another thing too, he always pushed for threesomes. He pushed for that, and she showed attraction to me. And later on in the relationship, it came out as her feeling as though she wanted me to want her the way I wanted Dimitri.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I have nothing against, bisexuality at all, but I wasn't bisexual. And I made that very clear before coming in the house. I'm telling them, hey, I'm not bisexual. So I was not attracted to women at all, but she made me feel like I needed to be, and so did he.
Mm-hmm.
And it was even weird that he would have her refer to me as her wife. I remember we were taking acting classes together, and she introduced me to some of her friends in the class as my wife. This is my wife, Ariadne. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, okay. Okay, I'm her wife, hi. But he would say that too. He would tell me, like, he would refer to her as my wife. So, they had a push for us to be intimate because that was what he wanted, but I resisted the whole time.
Did you ever?
No.
With her? Oh.
Never.
So you're at now the new house, so you have your own room.
No.
And you don't have where
we had a 5-bedroom house in Georgia he was renting, and I still had to share a room with him. Yeah.
You had to share a room with him?
With both of them. We all slept in the same bed still.
But nobody would have sex in the bed. You had to go in the closet to have sex.
Well, we were having sex in the bed initially, and then I pushed for, and so did she, because she knew that I was uncomfortable with it. She didn't like the fact that I was, and she also made us think about it too, because she didn't like seeing us have sex. Weird enough, oddly enough, because she and I weren't engaging, I guess. But eventually we would go into the room, but then he complained about that because he didn't like having to get out of the bed and all this other stuff. So I started sleeping in the bed again.
Now who is he in the middle every time?
Yeah, he's in the middle. That's where he slept.
Okay. Because I'm a side sleeper, so I could never be in the middle. I
Yeah.
can, like, when the kids and stuff would get in our bed, I
Mhm.
was like, the kid has to be in the middle. I have to have my leg off the side. So I don't know how people sleep in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, he did. Okay, so continue.
Yeah, he did. So yeah, things progressively got worse. There's a lot of arguing between she and I eventually. It was a nitpicking. It was
Like
her.
nitpicking about, like, you didn't do
Um,
the same amount of housework or kids, or what is
well,
it?
she would stick me with the children all the time. It was as if she didn't really want to be with the kids, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So I found myself babysitting a lot and keeping the children a lot. Even the homeschooling responsibility was on me a lot. She was always in the kitchen, most times just listening to music or just in her own zone. So I would complain about that, and we ended up being able to share the load of being with the children and being in the house, being in the kitchen. So we created a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
She would complain about me getting up in the mornings and brushing my teeth and washing my face, and she felt like I was taking too long, or I was wasting time, that I should have just get up and go downstairs and make breakfast.
As
And
someone
there,
who's as someone who's watched her now for a few years, she's always just like, we really think it's a great fit. Like, I just can't imagine, like, just like, tell me what she would say. So I'm you, and I just finished washing my face and brushing my teeth, and you're her and you're annoyed. What would you say to me?
she didn't say anything. She had this smug look on her face, much
Mm.
like what you guys see on the show. And she'll be
Okay.
eating and she'll say something, well, Ariadne or Ari spent a whole lot of time in the bathroom, or well, you would have had breakfast sooner, boo, had Ari not gone in and spent 10 minutes in the bathroom. So it was literally like, and Dimitri was very demanding of it too. He's like, well, Ari, because she would go to him. She would always go to him. And then he'd come to me with his grievances. And so it was, well, you were in the bathroom too long, and let's try to make it 5 minutes instead of 10. And I'm like, but I have to brush my teeth and wash my face. She had even insisted that I didn't brush my teeth and wash my face until I got breakfast done. And I'm thinking, but that's just like that's hygiene. I need to do this. So it was a situation where she'd get upset because I fix myself up in the morning and wrap my hair or something like that. And she just felt like it was too time consuming. So, she made a big deal about that. Even how I prepared the food, how I washed the dishes, or how I cleaned. I would take the dustpan after I swept, and she told me, you need to wash the dustpan. And I'm thinking, why would I wash it in the sink that we wash our dishes in? That's nasty, but okay. So I washed the dustpan, or it was very like just weird things that she make a big deal about. And those weird things it just got worse and worse and worse. Um,
Now, were you and Dimitri able to go out alone and have dinners and stuff, or like never?
Initially, when I
Hmm.
first got there, we had 2 dates alone, and that was it. That was it. Yeah.
And so
Everything else.
initially, you had time with Dimitri, you had a friendship with her. It felt like you were sharing the responsibilities of children, which there's lots of times people would say, like, I need a sister wife. Like, it takes a village. Like, I get it, that type of thing. But I think when you actually do it and you're living in the same home, and this is not like the Browns sister wives show where they all have their own houses in the cul-de-sac and all that kind of stuff. And if you watch that show, he eventually wants them all to live back into a big house, and they're like, no, like, and a lot of it was kitchen stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they just let me just be alone in my kitchen. Let me know that this is my own domain, and like,
Mhm.
I don't care about sharing you, but like, let me have my own thing with my
Right.
own kids, And it sounds like that is what you did not get at all.
No, I had nothing that belonged to me. In fact, there were times like she borrowed my clothes, because when I got there, the children didn't have a lot of decent looking clothes, so I'd buy clothes for them. I would pay for dinners when we'd all go out as a family. Dimitri borrowed money from me plenty of times for different things, various different things. I also noticed that he didn't really have money. He was always borrowing money from people. And then I come to find out he was actually lying to people and swindling them out of money. He would tell them he'd build an app for them, or he'd build a website, and then he didn't deliver, but they'd give him the money. So he'd always come up with money doing that. But yeah, when it came to having
he's covering the rent and stuff, but then
Yeah.
where
But
are you? Go ahead.
He paid the rent, so he must have borrowed money from somewhere. He paid the rent in a lump sum. So I think he gave the owners like 10K or something like that.
Okay, for like 6 months or something.
Yeah, or less, or something like that. So we didn't have to worry about rent for a couple of months. But yeah, other expenses, like say for instance, when I got there, they sold their truck. It was this old Ford Explorer. They sold it, and so they were using my car. And then when we get to the big house, we finally get a car, a Hummer. I actually helped him get. He asked for money to help him buy it. We get the car, and then it broke because it was a lemon. And so we went back to getting Ubers again because we didn't have a car. So it was those types of situations, like what Dimitri promised me, or what he said that he had, and what he, the stability that he could offer, it was not real. It was definitely a facade.
And were you working at the time, or you were just using your savings at this time?
I'm using my savings. He did not want to work. He didn't want us to work. I left that house broke. Yeah.
Okay, so get to the day when you left. Now, how long had you been with him before you and your daughter left?
Man, after all of the fights and the arguments and me being jumped on
so it was a physical. There were physical fights as well as yelling.
Yes, before I left the house. So a month before I left, Ashley and I got into a really explosive argument, and she left the house abruptly. She took the kids and went to Cincinnati. This is where her family is from. And I didn't know where she went initially. He wouldn't tell me until like 2 days later. And then he stayed out all night. He didn't come home, or, these different things started happening. There was a woman that slept at the house. He didn't know I knew. I'm in the bed asleep. This is like 3 a.m. I wake up, he's not there. I go, downstairs to search for him. He's not downstairs on the middle floor. I go in the basement, and sure enough, he's in a TV room on the sofa asleep with this woman. This woman, Ashley and I know who this woman is. And this is who he was cheating with. One of the many women, because there was so many other women. He slept with her cousin too. It was terrible. And I still have the text.
He slept with Ashley's cousin.
No, he slept with the woman who he was
messing with. Oh, the woman on the couch, his cousin.
Yeah. Yes. And I have the text messages still. But yeah, so I didn't tell him that. What I did was...
You didn't tell him that you saw them together?
Right.
Okay.
I didn't say anything. What I wanted to do was get more information of what was happening around me, because I knew something was happening. I just wasn't sure. So the next day he went out. It was a Super Bowl party. He went out to the Super Bowl party, and I went into his office. I grabbed his work phone. It was an iPhone, and I opened it up. I had access to the password, and lo and behold, the stuff that I found in that phone horrified me. I was horrified. Not only was he talking to this woman, but many, many, many others. There was even a text message that kind of alluded to him being bisexual, liking men. Then I saw the text messages between he and Ashley, because that's really what I wanted to see. And she's talking really a lot of trash about me, my children. I find out that, she went to Cincinnati because she left the house because she didn't want the relationship. She didn't want me there anymore. And she wanted him to get rid of me. So she left him to do the dirty work, basically. And he didn't want me to get rid of me. And he was actually telling her, you expect me to send this woman away after I asked her to give up everything for me. Now you want me to send her away with her children. And she was very nonchalant about that. He seemed to actually be worried. So the next day I told him what I found in the phone. I asked him if we can talk, and he was in his office. And I told him about everything that I knew. I was completely distraught about all the things that I saw. And he blew up. This was the first time I'd ever seen him blow up on me. I've heard him yell and scream at her, but I've never seen him get violent with me. And he grabbed me by my neck, pushed me over a table full of guns that he had. Mind you, I find out that he's a felon, and he wasn't supposed to have guns. and he has a table full of guns. So he pushes me over the table. He's choking me and he's screaming. And I'm panicking. I'm scratching, trying to get free. I'm sorry.
You're just remembering it now. Yeah.
I'm trying to get free, and I'm mortified.
Now, where's your kids now? Do you still just have the one, or your other kids have joined you?
My other two daughters were there.
And were they just upstairs, or what? They didn't know what was going on?
They were in the playroom across from the office that we were in.
Did they hear anything? Oh, they did.
Yes, they heard the commotion. And when I got free, he let me go. He punched the table, and it was like a thick inch board. And I have a text message where he says, "I can't believe I punched a thick inch board. Wine, please." He asked me to bring him wine. So he punched the board, and I ran out of the room. And as I ran out, I opened the door and I saw my daughter standing there, tears in her eyes. She's afraid. She went upstairs and she grabbed the knife because she thought that she had to protect her mom. I grabbed the knife from her. I grabbed the other kids. We go upstairs and we run into her room. Her room was in the middle. So her room was, we had an upstairs, we had the middle, and then we had the basement. So her room was in the middle. And we run into her room. We lock the door. He's banging on the door, screaming, "I just want to talk. I just want to talk to her. I just want to talk." So he's banging, banging, banging. And I open the door and I tell him she doesn't want to talk to you. And she was behind me. She's screaming, "I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk." And he's like, "I just want to talk." And so she was pushing him and I'm pushing him. So we're pushing him out of the door. And so I walk out of the room and I close the door. She locked it. I told her to lock it. And he runs upstairs. So he's upstairs. I run into the kitchen. And I grabbed the paper towel because my back was bleeding. My daughter told me my back was bleeding. So I grabbed the paper towel.
From when he threw you down, you mean?
Yes, when he pushed me over on the table. So I'm nursing my back, and he comes downstairs and he's apologizing. He's asking if we can talk. And at this point, I'm very numb. I'm shocked. I didn't even know what to do. So I agreed to talk to him. I went upstairs into the room to find a Band-Aid or bandage for my back. And he offered to put a bandage on my back after he attacked me. And he asked me not to call the police. He did apologize profusely, kept apologizing. And I honestly can't remember what happened after. I just know that I ended up taking a nap because I was so exhausted.
Right.
I just laid in a bed because I cried myself to sleep.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up, going downstairs, checking on the children because my daughter had the girls, her two sisters in the room with her. And I was planning my escape at that point, but I had no money. I had no money. God. So I didn't know how I was going to leave. And I was a mess. I called people that I knew, family. I was ashamed to tell my parents because I talked so highly of these people. And just like everybody in America sees them on TV and they're thinking, "Oh, it's such a great family." And I was so convinced that they were. And so I'm convincing my family. My mother and father were completely against it. And I'm telling them, they're good people and they're this and they're that. And then for me to have, just the thought of me going back to my parents and saying, "You were right." And, not only were you right, but this person just choked me, abused me. So, I tried to get help. I contacted some mutual people that we knew. These folks knew what was going on. And in fact, through the text messages, I find that there were other women that they had victimized, other women that were coming and going. Ashley had told me that Dimitri gave her venereal disease a year before. I was learning so much within this time, and it was a lot. He did offer to give me money to leave. So he must have borrowed money. And I find out later on that he did borrow money from someone to give me money to leave the house. But he did tell me that I can stay as long as I needed to. Of course, I did not want to stay because at this point, he's remorseful. He's still telling me he loves me. He wants me to stay and all this other stuff. And then there was a time that I heard him, it's before I left, I heard him yelling at Ashley. He was screaming at the top of his lungs, cussing her out, calling her bitches, and because she had the kids, and I guess she must have told him that she wasn't coming back or something with the children. I don't know, but he kept
From
screaming, "Bring my
Cincinnati.
children."
So he's screaming at her on
Yeah.
the phone. Mm-hmm.
And when I finally moved out, he gave me $8,000. He was supposed to give me 10, but he gave me 8. I'm like, whatever. I don't give a shit. Just let me get out of here.
Yeah.
So I move out and I moved into my own place. But it didn't end because he still had me thinking, or wanted me to believe, that he wanted a relationship and that all I had to do was, talk to Ashley. And I didn't really want to do anything. And before I actually left the house, I ended up apologizing to Ashley for something I didn't even do. Like, I didn't even know what I did, but he kept telling me I can make it work. I can make her come back if I just apologize to her. So I wrote a heartfelt apology to this woman that I did not victimize in any way. And of course, nothing happened. Yeah. So after that,
so when you moved out with the girls and you got your own place, did you move out to a place in Atlanta, or did you go back to your parents?
In Atlanta.
Oh, so you just moved
yeah,
like in the same town, but not in your own place?
No. This was a different county.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were in Lawrenceville. I ended up in, what's the name of this place?
Well, you don't have to say it.
Gwinnett. I was in Gwinnett County.
Okay. So what year is this around?
This was around 2017, 2018.
So
16, 17.
So after you leave and he's still trying to win you back, when does it officially end?
It ended maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. The reason why it ended, though, is because I told him about the woman that he was sleeping with. And I told him about all the other people, and a scandal broke out with that situation. But the woman he was sleeping with, or the woman that was sleeping in the house, she was still married, and her husband found out that she had given Dimitri a CPN number, which is illegal.
What's a CPN number?
It's a social security number. So Dimitri had really bad credit. Remember, he's a felon.
What's he a felon for?
He was stealing cars when he was a teenager, 19, 20, something like that. And he went to jail for stealing cars. And then another incident happened in 2010, 2011, where he laundered money from a charter school that he had helped to co-found. So he laundered money, about $45,000, money from a charter school and then other charter schools and other small businesses. And this article is actually still found online, where he was convicted of doing this. So he had really bad credit. His credit was shot and he couldn't do anything with it. So this woman, she was a tax preparation person. So she somehow knew how to provide him with a new CPN, and she gave him that. So I told him about, everything that I knew, and I wanted nothing to do with it, but her husband found out. And when he found out, he exposed Dimitri. So it was like a post that went viral, but Dimitri ended up having it taken down, and he tried to sue the guy. I think he actually did sue the guy because the guy did make up some stuff. He had truth in the post, but he also made up lies too. But this woman had her own stuff going on too, because she had actually went to jail and spent time in jail because she tried to run her husband at the time and his mistress, who's now his wife, I believe, off the road. But she had her children in the car at the time that she was trying to run them off the road. So she ended up losing her kids and going to jail for a year or something. So Dimitri was caught up in that as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of crazy stuff. I disconnected from everybody and everything. I wanted nothing to do with any of it. So a couple of years later, I see them on TV with their dysfunction. And I find out about the other wives that came in previously. One woman came from Brazil. I find out that Ashley
before you, there was a Brazilian wife.
It was a Brazilian woman, and kind of the same scenario with Chrissy, where they had her come in from a different country and they terrorized her, and then she had to flee. So I immediately contacted TLC to tell them what I
you did?
I did. I talked to the legal team. I sent them text messages, pictures. I sent them everything I can possibly send to prove that I knew these people, that I actually lived there, and that kind of thing. They did
And
nothing. Nothing.
What did they even respond? Like, we'll look into
They
it.
did.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Was that about it?
The lawyer, I actually talked to her. She called
Mhm.
me. We talked. There was a lawyer for the Discovery Channel, and
Mhm.
we talked, and I told her everything I knew, and she said, we'll look into it, and that was the last I heard. I hadn't gotten any other correspondences, any updates or anything like that.
So then you are like, I did my due diligence. I didn't press charges back then, but I'm going to let these people know I did it. And so you're living your life, being a mom, doing your thing. And then a week ago, the story comes out about Crystalline, who's on the show right now, who on last night's episode has just arrived on the last flight before the COVID shutdown. Taylor, the other girl that came from Atlanta, I think, is living there.
Mm-hmm.
And Crystalline comes from South Africa with her 2 little girls. And everyone's all so excited about what's going to go on. And then, of course, in real life, because this was about a year ago that we're watching what's happening on the show,
Mm-hmm.
she makes an account that throughout the year that she lived with him, there were all these incidences where he choked her, banged her head against a wall or a headboard, and that Ashley also physically prevented her from leaving. And then they go to have the hearing to get the temporary restraining order done, and the judge throws it out because the judge says that there is not enough evidence, or there isn't. She believes it's his word against Crystalline's, and he had a text from Crystalline saying she enjoyed the choking when they were sexual. But I'm thinking that may have happened, but then the account that she said where it sounds like she was, where he physically got physical with her, I'm like, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. And I believe her because
I do too.
It happened to me.
Yeah.
I believe it. And because when you're with someone or in a relationship with someone, you've had consensual sex, and somebody actually violates you by taking it from you when you don't want to give it, or doing something such as he did, like choking her, even in your mind, you're wondering what just happened.
Yeah.
So for me, when it happened, he got up and he in the middle of the night, he straddled my chest and he tried to make me perform fellatio on him. And I'm like still asleep. I've even had him choke me too, and I didn't ask to be choked. And there's no text messages he's going to find with me saying I want to be choked, because that's just, I'm not into that type of kink, if you will. But he is capable of that type of violence. And I even have text messages that was sent to me by a woman who was there before me. And she sent it right after the first show aired, the first episode or the first season, whatever. And this was after the Jocelyn situation. It's a long, drawn out text from Ashley to Dimitri. And she's basically admitting that he physically abused her. So she's saying that no other woman would deal with the infidelity, the physical and emotional abuse. And I before I left the house, I thought Ashley I saw her as an evil person too, just like him. But now I see that she's a victim. She really is. She's trapped. She's stuck there because he has committed the same violent acts that he's committed on me, Crystalline, to her. But she's still there, and she still protects him. She still defends him. She needs to be protected. Those children need to be protected. But I really don't even know how one would do that when she's protecting the person that's hurting her. So when I saw that story break with Crystalline, I broke down. I could not believe that these people were still being allowed to hurt other women. And TLC knew about this. TLC knew. I told them. I called them and I told them. But yeah, she's experiencing the same thing. And they can paint the picture of them being happy, and they use their intelligence and the pseudo-sexuality to cover the narcissistic psychopathic tendencies. And it's interesting to watch, because you don't know what they are until you actually are in the house with them. And I firmly believe that's why they made everybody else sign NDAs, because I had gotten access to text messages and that kind of thing. So I had proof of what was happening to me. But they took the voice away from these women. So these women can't speak up.
So Vanessa Cobbs, who I met, she is not able to come back on Juicy Scoop.
Mm-hmm.
And with Taylor, now people were noticing that you guys seem to have come in contact. You're commenting and liking. So can you share anything of your communication with Crystalline or Taylor?
I can't share anything because they're under NDA, but I can say that I have been in contact with them, and all of them share the same story.
And are they all no longer in contact? I mean, no longer in a relationship with Dimitri or Ashley?
No longer.
And do you know, because I'm very concerned with Crystalline being that she is not an American citizen, but then she mentioned that they did get married because I guess
They did.
Ashley and Dimitri never were married.
Never.
So he was free to marry. So he married Crystalline so she was able to come here. And so was she not living in the house? Like, so when he did get physical with her, as allegedly as she claimed, then she left. So is she able to live somewhere here? Can she survive?
Yeah, she can still be here because she's still married to him legally. But she has to be in hiding at this point because she is a victim of domestic violence. So her whereabouts can't be known to him. And it's unfortunate that the judge dropped the charges. That hurt my heart as well. I'm not even sure how the hell that happened, because even
now
if
she has no protection.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So who's protecting her? And this is the problem. A lot of women get caught in the cracks of the system. It's so broken, and we need to tighten the laws to protect women in these instances, because she's right now, she's hiding, she's unprotected. And I'm sure it's, if he finds her or can find her, because there's a lot that she experienced in that house. Those women, they experience hell. And I know what I experienced, so I can only imagine. Because what it is that they isolate you from your family. They isolate you from your friends. So you are all they have. And in my instance, at least I had family in the States. At least Vanessa had family. At least, Taylor had family. In Crystalline's case, she doesn't have anybody,
And two little children with her.
Exactly. So it's a situation where they knew that, and mistreating her was nothing to them, because who would advocate for her? Who would help her? Who would support her, Yeah. So when it comes to, having talked to them, I have, and their stories are much like mine, very similar. In some instances, actually a little bit more. For Crystalline, it was way worse. Way worse. Yeah, way worse. She needs to be protected.
I mean, I just don't know what TLC is doing. Like, I mean, if anything, if I was at TLC, I would go to Crystalline and help her as much as I could, financially or whatever, to go back to South Africa if she wants to live here, establish her here. They're just gonna I don't know, maybe that is happening, I don't know, but like, we're just gonna keep watching this show.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm gonna keep watching it, but I'm having you on because if they want to pull it down,
right?
Like, they shouldn't be profiting off of this, and
exactly.
They should be figuring this out.
They still got paid for this episode. I mean, this season. So they're getting paid on the backs of suffering women or hurting women.
And I don't know that. I don't remember if Vanessa got paid. I know they don't get paid a lot.
They don't get paid at all. They don't pay the women.
So the girls, potential wives, don't get paid. Only the set families do.
Yes. So all the rumors about them getting money and being paid, and none of it's true. They're not being paid for this.
Wow.
Nope.
I really commend you for being so strong. And, it's just really sad because you were absolutely like tricked and you had all the best intentions. And like I said, I sat right next to them. I was totally charmed. I thought I was like, hey, who am I to judge? You know,
Yeah. We're not the only ones. There was
yeah.
men, people have reached out to me and have told me that they've been victimized by Dimitri in some form or fashion. Either he's promised them services for money, and he never delivered, or, there's been a claim that he attacked somebody. It's been so much since that story broke. Just so many people are having the courage to come forward and say, hey, this is what's happening, or this is what's happened. One person is saying that they fear for their lives, and they've had very close contact with Dimitri, very close. So
yeah, when he tried to explain what he did for a living, and at the time Ashley was, very excited to be in my studio and to be part of it. And it's interesting because she was an aspiring actress, and I don't begrudge reality show people. Most of them are aspiring actors. You're outgoing, and now you get to be yourself and be outgoing. And actors are great at improv, so they do come up with the funny. So it's I could see it, and so this was kind of the great opportunity. Come to LA, be on a TV show, and we all love each other, and I totally see how you get sucked in, and then the cameras are gone, and you're like, what the hell is going on, And so I was like, what do you do? And it was the most confusing, weird thing. It was I can create an experience for you. I'm like, what do you mean? Go on a hot air balloon? What are you talking about? I was like, what is this? And it kind of makes, and then I'm like, and why do you have a big ass Hummer? Why are you driving a Hummer from Atlanta to LA? Why? There's a lot of strange stuff. And now it all kind of makes sense, sadly.
Yeah, he got advances. He lied and said that he was going to build an app for somebody and got $120,000 advance from this person, and this is how he's able to afford all of the expensive things that he has. He doesn't have any real wealth. Even if you look him up and you see his net worth is $2 million, that's a lie. That is a lie. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have a job, and they saw an opportunity to get money, to get notoriety and fame through reality TV. So, this was their proposed ticket to success or to fame, and it's blowing up in his face because you have a track record of actual crime in your life, and then you go to TV and you make it public, and so now you're under public scrutiny because of your choices. So all of the things that everybody's seeing on TV, it's not real, it's fake. He's been borrowing money. He owes a ton of people a ton of money, and I'm really surprised that he is not locked away in somebody's prison for everything that he's done. So,
does he even know how to build an app?
I don't think so. Not that I know of. The only thing I've ever remember him building is this robot he built a long time ago when he had this company called Geo or something, and he donated the robot to a college in GA in Georgia. And that was the last I heard of him building anything. But he always, talked about his glory days or his heydays of doing something. So every time you turn around, he knew how to do something. He was an ex-boxer. He was an ex-MMA fighter. He was an military combat something. So he claimed to have had a lot of skills and knew how to do a lot, but it never showed up in his actual life. You never saw him do those things. So.
Oh, he told me he was a fireman, I think, or he was a paramedic.
Because
he's like, can you help me get acting jobs? Because I'm actually a full-blown fireman and paramedic or something.
Liar.
And I'm like, I don't know. Send your info to the Fox show 911. They have cops. I was just like,
well, do you know that they bought their social media followers?
They bought them.
They bought their followers. They probably bought the certification check. Who knows? They actually started a tour. So he borrowed money, and I actually know a person who her friend he borrowed money from, and he never paid him back.
Okay.
$50,000. He borrowed this money. He sent Ashley off on a vacation after I left the house, right, to Asia at the time.
Okay.
And she pregnant with their youngest child. Then when they got the show, he bought followers to boost their, I guess their social media
Platform,
whatever.
yeah.
Right. And then he got a media package he put together where they were on a tour. So they went to all of these different radio shows to do interviews and that kind of thing, because this was his effort of boosting them up so that they can get opportunities to do acting, I would assume. So I started seeing her refer to herself as an actor. This woman has never done a film other than reality TV. But she was calling herself an actor long before. It was weird. Whatever he calls himself, I'm not sure, but all of it's fabricated and created by Dimitri himself. So
This
even
is
their
amazing.
followers are fake. Yeah, even their followers are fake.
God, I so appreciate you coming on the show. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It'll be
Okay.
very interesting to see, but I think that you being on my show is going to turn some things upside down.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
excited for it. I'm excited
Yeah,
for
me
people to
too.
hear it.
Because I mean, I don't have an NDA, so I'm not under anybody's lock and key, and I have receipts. So
Good.
just so they know.
Good. I love it.
Receipts.
Thank you so much. Now you have a good Instagram as well. Can you tell people where they can follow you and
Absolutely.
experience what you do?
Absolutely. I'm on IMBD. So if you guys
Okay.
want to see any of my projects, I actually have a project still on Amazon right now called The Glorious. It's a biopic of Gloria Steinem, so you can check that out. On Instagram, I'm Ariadne Joseph. On Facebook, I'm Ariadne Joseph. So you can follow me. I'll follow back. I also have a hair care company that I just started called So Divine Organics. Is spelled SEAUX, and that's a homage to my French heritage from New Orleans. So it's sodivineorganics.com, and I sell hair gel, flaxseed gel.
Well, I
which
mean,
use in my
your hair is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you
So
so
if
much.
that's what you're
Yeah.
using, people
Yes.
need to check it out because I love it. It looks great.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been making and using my own hair care products for about 8 years now. So I finally decided during COVID, when we weren't acting, I wasn't
Yeah.
able to really do much work. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me do this because this was my baby and I need to give birth to this project. So finally out there. But this is where you can find me, Ariadne
Yes.
Joseph, on both platforms. Facebook, Instagram. I'm also on Twitter. And yeah, sodivineorganics.com and IMBD.com. You can Google me as well, so you'll see the projects that I've done.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, Heather.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wow, that was incredible. I am so grateful that Ariadne contacted me and was brave enough to share her story. And that's why you listen to the Juicy Scoop. But if you even want more Juicy Scoop, you go to heathermcdonald.net, you click on Patreon. I've got a new show every Friday. You have access to all the back episodes, which are all commercial free at your tier. And it's worth it. Everyone tells me they love it. It is life-changing. I'm also coming to bring you the Juicy Scoop and myself live. And I'm going to try to come to as many cities as possible. But these are the ones I'm coming to: Miami, San Francisco, Seattle, Irvine, Chicago, New York, Boston, and Philly. I'm coming to all these places. You go to heathermcdonald.net. As soon as those tickets are available, I will let you know, and they will always be at heathermcdonald.net. Very exciting stuff. Thank you so much. And remember to check out Patreon at heathermcdonald.net.